Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen stories. In the first one, a Karen pointed a gun at me because I refused to let her use my pool. And in our second story, I refused to let an HOA Karen use my pool for her family party and then took legal action. Let's dive right into the video. When I was in the market for a house, there were several things that I was considering going into it. One thing that I was keeping in mind was the fact that I work from home, so I wanted to find a home somewhere that was nice but also quiet, so I would not need to worry about screaming and blaring horns when trying to get some work done. The house I found was great, and even when it was warm and I wanted to open the windows for a nice cool breeze, it was not letting in much noise. The most was kids talking while waiting for the bus in the morning or the occasional dog barking. Normal suburban noises. I also like that I was able to set up a space as a home office because before it was doubling as my bedroom and trying angle webcams to not show my bed or dirty clothing was a pain. The last thing I really wanted in a new house was an area where I could relax on my downtime. I was gonna be spending the majority of my time on the property, so I should make sure that it had something I would like. When I saw the house also had an in-ground pool already installed in the backyard, I knew that I wanted it for my house. I moved in and of course it took time to get everything set up. The pool was empty when I moved in, so I had to get everything I needed to set it up. It needed a new filter installed and I wanted to get a retractable cover for the winter or for when I was not using it much so it did not get gross. I also found out that the law required a few things from me as a pool owner. It said that I needed warning signs even if it was on my own property, so I followed the rules and while I was at it made sure to get a no trespassing sign as well. That was not so much planned as just something that caught my eye at the store. I figured that since pools could be dangerous and even deadly, I wanted to make sure I had everything covered. I read too many horror stories online, so even though I had the signs, I still felt a little bit uneasy and worried that something horrible could happen. I ordered security cameras and hooked them up to my backyard, and well, it made me feel safer. A little bit like a crazy person, but safer. It turns out that I was not crazy, and getting them was one of the best things I could have done. So skip ahead a couple months and it is burning hot summer, close to 100 degrees, 37 degrees for the rest of the world using Celsius. I was out by the pool relaxing and taking a dip once in a while when the heat was really getting to me. That was when I noticed my neighbor standing at my back gate and just staring into it. Now I got to talk about the mother of this family for a second. I've met her before and she is a Karen. I've heard her yelling at the bus driver for not waiting while her kids wake up and get dressed, thinking the world needed to wait for her and her kids. She pretends to be friendly to people's faces, but then I hear her gossip behind their back about stuff like their weight and clothing. Her kids were out of control due to their mom raising them to be just as entitled as she was. And her husband, honestly, I did not even see much of him and assumed that he was out of the house working most of the time. Still, when he was there, I never saw him try to calm his wife down or tell her that she was wrong. He is what I would personally classify as an enabler, but some might disagree and consider him a victim of Karen's entitlement as well. Well, anyway, here this family was at my gate and did not even try to say anything to get my attention. I could hear the kids talking and assumed that they were in their own backyard. I just happened to turn around and see them looking over the gate at me and my pool. It was honestly creepy because for all I knew they were standing there for hours. Karen noticed that I finally saw them and started to wave me over like she had something to tell me. At this point I didn't know what they wanted, but I just went over in case it was important. Me, hello? Karen, oh hello sweetie, I was just noticing that you have a very big pool back there just for yourself. I know the kids would love to get out of this heat and go for a little dip. Me, I'm sorry, but I'm not really comfortable with that. Karen, come on, don't be selfish and unneighborly. They are just kids after all and should not need to suffer in this kind of heat. The pool would be great for them. Me, again, I'm sorry, but it's a firm no. Husband, I'm sure we can work something out. And before you guys start thinking too deep into that comment, he was moving his fingers in a way that gestured money. He thought that I was not letting them use it because I wanted them to pay or something, so well, I made it clear why I was not gonna let this happen. Me, I need my privacy in my own yard, plus I'm not really comfortable letting anybody use my pool. If people got hurt, I would be liable. Karen, it is just water, it's not dangerous. Me, it actually is extremely dangerous, especially for kids. She was not letting this go though, and instead turning it around that I was insulting her kids and calling them too dumb to swim. The kids meanwhile were starting to get impatient and chanting the word pool. It was clear that these kids were used to throwing a fit and then getting what they wanted because of it. But I was not their mom and not gonna give in to anything. I turned to go back into my yard, but Karen yelled my name and making me turn back around. She had pulled a handgun out of her bag and was holding it. She was pointing it at me and it was a clear threat. Karen, maybe now you will stop being rude and selfish. The husband did not look proud of Karen pulling out a gun, and I was not gonna mess around with this crap. I got a sense that she was all talk though, and I was close enough to the house that I could make a quick dash and get out of any line of fire. And by the way guys, I feel like OP must have balls of steel. I would probably be peeing my pants in that situation, to be honest with you. Anyway, I did just that and ran into my house before locking the door. I picked up the phone and called the police, telling them that my neighbor was threatening me with a gun. The police were telling me to just stay in the house and wait for them, and at this point Karen was no longer at the gate but had gotten into my backyard. As I waited for the police, I could hear her pounding on the back door, yelling and swearing at me. Luckily, the police came pretty quickly and followed the yelling into the backyard. I waited and listened as they told her to drop the weapon and did not open my door until it was the police telling me it was safe to come outside and speak with them about what actually happened. I came outside to see Karen in handcuffs. She was still yelling and claiming that I was trying to drown her children and steal them. The things she was saying got more erratic and I could hear the police questioning the husband if she was on drugs or not, then asking him if she suffered from any mental illnesses. In this moment I found out that Karen had a bipolar disorder and was notoriously bad at taking her medication. She was clearly unstable and possibly manic, which caused her to react by pulling out a gun. She was not calming down at the scene though, either screaming that the police wanted to drown her, and then she claimed to them that I had stolen her children and tried to lock them in the backyard and she just wanted to get them back. I told the police that I had the video of my backyard showing that I never took the kids, and they told me to hold onto it just in case, but that it probably was not gonna be necessary. Like I said though, in the start this was a quiet neighborhood, so the police and an ambulance got the attention of everybody. Karen was carted away still screaming and not making sense while everybody watched. The husband looked mortified at the entire thing. I found out later that Karen had charges pressed against her by the state for having the gun illegally. I did get a request from the police for a copy of the security footage as evidence against her, but I did not need to go to court or anything. For all I know, she might have not been able to stand trial because she wasn't sent to jail or a police station. She went to a psychiatric hospital for treatment, and I assume the doctors there make the decision whether she is able to stand trial or not. Everybody found out where she had been sent, and I think it was just too much for the husband to handle. The house got put up for sale and sold faster than I thought was even possible. He clearly did not want to be there when Karen got out of the hospital or for people to see him again. I guess the stigma and taboo of it all was too much to handle. Either way, the kids went with him obviously, and I can hope that he teaches them right and wrong a little better. I know some of you will think I was wrong to not try and press charges even further against her for trespassing or traumatizing me or something. I just did not feel right doing that once I found out that she was mentally ill. I knew she was not coming back and I'm fine with it just ending the way it did. The neighborhood got its peace and quiet back. Honestly, I just never experienced anything so insane before, and I hope I never experienced that again. It does make me wonder how many of the Karens I read about are actually just sick and might not even know it. The things they do are crazy though, that's for sure. And in classic HOA fashion, in the next story, an entitled homeowner association Karen, demanded that OP lets her use his pool for a birthday party, but of course she insisted that she has the right to be there. The story starts like this. So I bought my house 2 years ago in what seemed like a nice neighborhood with an HOA. The previous owner had installed a beautiful in-ground pool with a proper fence, security cameras and all the safety features required by law. It was actually one of the main reasons I bought the place, because I love swimming and having friends over for barbecues during the summer. Well, everything was fine until Karen, not her real name, got elected to the HOA board 3 months ago. She lives 4 houses down from me and has been a pain since day one, constantly finding minor violations to report. But this weekend, things went completely off the rails. It started last Thursday when Karen came knocking on my door around 6 p.m. I was working from home and on a call, so I had to mute myself to answer. "Hi, I'm planning my niece's Sweet 16 this Saturday and we need to use your pool," she announced without even a hello, not asked needed. I blinked a few times trying to process what I just heard. "I'm sorry, what?" "The party is this Thursday. We will need access from about 2 p.m. until 8 p.m. There will be around 30 teenagers plus some family members." She was already trying to sneak past me into my house. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not comfortable with strangers using my pool. It's a liability issue." Karen's friendly facade dropped instantly. "Don't be ridiculous. You cannot just hoard a pool all to yourself in this heat. Besides, as an HOA board member, I have certain privileges." "That's not how this works," I replied. "The pool is private property and the HOA has no authority over it." "We will see about that," she snapped before storming off. I thought that was the end of it, but Friday afternoon I got a weird email from the HOA board saying they were reviewing pool usage guidelines. I immediately replied, copying my lawyer, who had helped me review the HOA agreement when I bought the house, pointing out that private backyard pools were explicitly excluded from HOA jurisdiction in our bylaws. Saturday morning, I woke up to find printed invitations scattered all over our neighborhood. They read, "Join us for Emma's Sweet 16, pool party at," my address, 2 to 8 p.m., complete with clip art of pool floaties and my exact address. I was livid. I immediately called Karen. "Oh good, you got the invitation," she said cheerfully. "Karen, you cannot invite people to my private property and without my permission. The party is not happening here." "Don't be so selfish. Emma's been telling all her friends about this for days. You cannot ruin a young girl's birthday. Just go out for the afternoon. We will make sure everything is cleaned up." "The party is not happening here," I repeated. "I'm calling the police to report attempted trespassing and I will be home all day with cameras running. Don't try to enter my property." "You would not dare to call the police on a teenage girl's birthday party. What kind of monster are you?" I hung up and immediately called the non-emergency police line to report the situation. They were surprisingly understanding and said that they would increase patrols in the area that afternoon. I also sent a mass email to everyone in the HOA listing my address, stating clearly that there was no pool party at my house, that any attempts to enter my property would be considered trespassing, and that the police had been notified too. I attached a photo of the security cameras covering my backyard. Around 1:30 p.m., cars started arriving at Karen's house. By 1:50, I could see a group of teenagers in swimsuits gathering in her driveway, and that is when things got really interesting. At exactly 2 p.m, Karen led the entire group down the street towards my house. I was not kidding about the cameras. I had a perfect view of them approaching my front gate. There had to be at least 25 teenagers plus several adults, all carrying pool floaties and coolers. I had locked every entrance, including the side gate that led to the backyard. Karen marched right up to my front door and started pounding on it. I had my phone recording as I opened it. "The party is here," she announced, trying to push past me. I blocked the doorway though. "Karen, this is your final warning. You don't have permission to enter my property. Please leave immediately." "Stop being ridiculous," she snapped. "These kids are all here now. You cannot just—" She was interrupted by a police car, pulling up, lights flashing. 2 officers got out and approached our little gathering. I recognized one of them from when I had filed the report. "Is there a problem here?" the officer asked. Karen's face went through about 5 different emotions before settling on righteous indignation. "Yes, this man is ruining my niece's birthday party. He agreed to host and now he's locked us out." I pulled out my phone. "Well, actually, officer, I have text messages and emails showing that I explicitly denied permission multiple times. I also got security footage of Miss Roberts distributing party invitations with my address without my consent." The birthday girl, Emma, looked mortified. "Aunt Karen, you said he was okay with this. You said he agreed weeks ago." Karen's face turned red and she said, "Well, he should have agreed. It's selfish to have a pool and not share it. As an HOA board member—" "Ma'am," the officer interrupted, "HOA authority does not override private property rights. If you don't have permission to be here, you need to leave." "This is ridiculous. I've already paid for all the food and decoration." "That sounds like a personal problem," I said. "Maybe next time don't plan a party on someone else's property without their permission." The officers helped disperse the crowd, but Karen was not done yet. As she was leaving, she turned and screamed, "You will regret this. Just wait until the next HOA meeting." Over the next week, Karen launched what I can only describe as a harassment campaign. She filed 17 different HOA violations against my property, all bogus by the way, things like unapproved grass length and unauthorized security cameras. She posted on the neighborhood Facebook group calling me a child hater who ruined a sweet girl's 16th birthday party. She even tried to get a petition going to force me to make my pool available for community events. Well, but here's where she really messed up. She admitted in the Facebook post that she had known all along that I had not agreed to the party. She wrote, and I quote, "He kept saying no, but I knew once the kids were there, he would not turn them away. No decent person would." My lawyer loved that post. He said it was a clear admission of premeditated attempted trespassing and harassment. We filed for a cease and desist order and sent a formal complaint to the HOA board documenting her abuse of power. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. Karen showed up looking smug, probably expecting to back her up. Instead though, they presented evidence of her numerous violations of HOA bylaws, including using her position to harass residents and attempting to claim HOA authority over private property. They also had copies of all her false violation reports, her social media posts, and statements from other neighbors that she had harassed. The best part though? Apparently I was not the first person she had pulled this with. 3 other neighbors came forward with similar stories of her trying to use their private property for various events and then harassing them when they refused. The board voted unanimously to remove her from her position, and they also implemented new rules specifically prohibiting board members from using their position to coerce residents into providing access to private property. Karen just lost it. She started screaming about how we are all conspiring against her and how this is what is wrong with society. Nobody wants to help anyone anymore. She had to be escorted out by security. The cherry on top though, Emma's parents, Karen's brother and sister-in-law, called me personally to apologize. It turns out that Karen had told them that I'd enthusiastically agreed to host. They ended up renting out the community pool in the next town over for a proper party the following weekend. Now Karen is telling everyone who will listen that I'm trying to destroy her life because I could not share for one afternoon. Half the neighborhood thinks I'm a hero for finally standing up to her, while the other half thinks I'm some kind of monster who hates children and parties. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to let Karen use my pool and then getting her removed from the HOA board? And yeah, ripe stars, let me know what you think in the comments, but I would say OP is definitely not the a-hole. He did exactly what I would have done, because there's no way in hell I would let someone like Karen use my pool and then potentially be liable for any damages or injuries that might occur. However, let me know what you think in the comments. OP further mentioned, yes, my insurance specifically excludes coverage for unauthorized pool use, and number 2, the cease and desist has been served and my lawyer is monitoring for any further harassment. Number 3, several people have asked about the party. Apparently Emma had a great time at the rescheduled event without Karen there to cause drama. And someone in the comments said, not the a-hole, your pool, your property, your rules. Karen is lucky that you only got her removed from the HOA board. You could have pressed criminal charges for attempted trespassing. NTA, as someone who works in insurance, you absolutely did the right thing. If anyone had gotten hurt in your pool, you could have been liable for hundreds of thousands in damages. And another person said, not the a-hole, the fact that she admitted on Facebook that she knew you said no, but thought she could force you to comply is absolutely wild. She played a stupid game and won a stupid prize. And to end things the right way, we will read one last petty revenge story that is very satisfying. It is titled, Guzzle My Tea, Pay the Price. So, my dad was an abusive a-hole. But in addition to his physical and emotional abuse, he did things just to piss people off. So we grew up on homemade iced tea. We, my siblings and I, made the tea because my dad did not. He barely held the job because he had a problem with authority. My dad would wait until we would fix a glass of iced tea, mix it with sugar, lemon and ice, and then sit down with it. He would then walk up and drink the entire thing. Just seriously, guzzle the whole thing. But then he would complain about it. He would say, too much lemon, not enough, or my favorite, too sweet. You must know, by the way, my dad was obese. Nothing was too sweet for him. Besides, why would he drink all of it if he did not like it? Why couldn't he ask us to make him one? Sometimes we would ask if he wanted a glass, and he would say no, but just drink ours anyway. So basically, he was just an idiot and a piece of crap. So one day, I knew what he was gonna do. So instead, I used salt. My brother was watching me and looked at me like, what the hell? So I just put my finger over my lips. The tea was still a little warm, so it was easier and the tea was more soluble. I mixed in that salt and then added ice. I sat down with a sandwich like I was gonna have lunch. Sure enough, my dad walked over, picked up my tea and started guzzling. He then ran to the sink and spit it out and coughed. He was yelling. I said, "What's wrong? Is it too sweet?" I worked so hard not to burst out laughing. My brother was in the corner with his head down and shaking with laughter. My father glared at me and he never drank my tea again. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and I will see you again tomorrow.